I think people, more and more people, are noticing that there is either a malicious group of people trying desperately to undermine the tradition and the truth of Orthodox Catholicism, or there's a bunch of really, really incompetent people in charge. Welcome to The Crunch, the only podcast that's old enough to drink and drive. It's your boy, Ethan.
And I'm Patrick. We started this podcast 7 years ago to find out if Catholics can be funny, and we still haven't figured it out. Welcome.
Do you know that 7-year-olds?
Welcome, other 7-year-olds, to our podcast.
You ever seen those 7-year-olds that are just tanking Miller Lights in the driver's seat? I love those kids. I always wanted to be like that when I was young, you know? I'd be sitting there on my stupid tricycle.
I thought you were doing a bit, but you've seen 7-year-olds.
Oh, the things I've seen you wouldn't believe, brother.
Growing up in Kansas, I guess.
I was on a tricycle, distinct memory, core memory, as they would say in the hallowed halls of the mental health division at Disney, aka Pixar Studios. But I was on a tricycle and I was eating a blue icy pop. And I saw this kid shotgunning a Miller Lite, driving with his feet. Ford F-150, 1997, Lariat edition, extended cab, short bed, ran right into a mailbox. And this podcast is older than him. And
you're on a tricycle?
Yeah, I was on a tricycle.
You know why bicycles can't beat tricycles in a race?
I don't want to know.
Because they're too tired. They can't. They just can't finish the race.
Did you say tricycles can't beat bicycles?
No, I said bicycles can't beat tricycles in races because they're too tired.
Did they go on a run earlier?
No, they have two tires, and it's a homophone.
Oh, sir, this is a Catholic podcast.
Yay!
Yay, we did it.
So we matched today.
We do?
We're both wearing gray T-shirts.
Ring the bell, baby. We've done
Which is strange because I rarely ever wear T-shirts to the podcast.
Yeah, you're usually in some type of cabana wear.
I'm usually Florida business is what I call it. I'm usually in Florida business wear.
I'm usually wearing an ill-fitting polo.
But we're roughing it today in the Patrick Nevy side of the podcast. I'm in my little brother's childhood. I'm not even in my own childhood bedroom this time. I'm in my little brother's childhood bedroom.
I think it'd be funny if you had a Florida Gators poster up in your house, in your room, because one, you're married, and that's an insane thing to have in your room when you're married. You just imagine,
this one, honey, will you marry me? Yes. First, before you say yes, hold on. Before you say yes, right above our headboard needs to be that.
Gatey the Gator. What's his name?
Well, that guy doesn't have a name, but Albert.
Albert.
The mascot's name is Albert, and I think the girl gator is Abigail. I think Alberta.
And
Alberta.
And do they make little gator children?
Little gator children, yeah. So we're moving. Speaking of gators, we're moving into an apartment. We got an apartment. I know. Ethan's like, holy cow.
It's genuinely, I choked on my saliva. Why didn't you tell me that earlier in my life?
It hasn't been solidified. Like we applied for it, and we're good. Like they're just checking our references, and I think we got it. But it's
you have
price
a reference.
Range that's good.
Did you list me as a reference?
No, like apartment references, like landlord references.
I'm your business partner.
But anyway, he's
very clean.
So
very little fecal matter.
There's an apartment. It's really nice, like right down the street from my co-working space. But it's a really beautiful apartment. They have a lake in the middle of the complex, and you can rent kayaks and go kayaking on this lake.
Oh, that's nice.
And my first thought, any of my Florida boys with me will understand and think you're probably thinking this already. I looked at her and I was like, What about alligators?
Yeah, didn't some kid die at Disney because of a gator in a lake?
I was like that. Like I grew up going to friends' houses and in these like subdivisions that have retention ponds. A lot of Florida subdivisions have retention ponds, and you can't like go swimming in the retention pond because there could be an alligator. And she says, I've been working here for 10 years, never seen an alligator. It's a fenced in property. They can't get in. And my dad was like, no, where there's water, there is alligator. Now
There be gator.
Now, they're gonna find the alligator before it gets big enough to eat someone.
Sure.
Disney's just so big. They couldn't get it in time.
Can I propose something?
Put a alligator in the lake?
No.
Okay.
Podcast on the lake. We both get kayaks, individual kayaks. We bring our microphones. We set up a camera.
Sure.
And then we kind of sit out there and we maybe dangle raw meat over the side of the kayaks. And we see if we can't get through an hour of dating questions before our little toes get chomped.
They do have a little peninsula. We were driving around the property. They have this little peninsula they call the island. It's not really an island, but it's like it's a circle of land that has a skinny little land bridge connecting it. So it's like,
you're telling me there's a peninsula in Florida.
Mm-hmm. It's like a
seems...
like a hat on a hat. It's a circle. It's like an island that has an isthmus attaching it to an isthmus. You're not familiar with an isthmus?
Don't flex on me with your geographical.
I'm just surprised that I said it 3 times without stumbling. It's a hard word to say.
It's not really isthmus.
Oh, you messed up.
No, I said it right.
No, you did not. You said isthmus.
It's not isthmus.
It's an
There's
isthmus.
No isthmus.
Yeah. Look it up.
ISTHMUS. Isthmus.
It's an isthmus.
You were saying isthmus.
Isthmus. Isthmus time is here.
An isthmus is a narrow strip of land that connects 2 larger land masses and separates 2 bodies of water. It's kind of like a butt crack for land.
Yeah. So there's an isthmus, whatever. There's a strip of land that connects to this little island, and on the island there's a wood fire pit. It's not really an island. This other landmass. There's a wood fire pit and 2 little Adirondack chairs with the lake on the back, and I was like, that's a good place for a podcast.
That's where we would film our Cialis commercial.
That's together. A great place for a podcast where the main feature of the podcast is 2 boys getting bit by every mosquito in the state of Florida.
We'd have to go. Do you guys have mosquitoes in the winter?
Yes.
Oh.
Fewer.
Then what's the point of winter if there's still bugs?
Well, there might be. I think there's fewer, but it doesn't get cold enough in Florida for them to all die.
Give it some time. So
that was my main
new agenda of climate change.
My main criticism of my main worry about it. It's a beautiful property. There's balconies that overlook the lake, and it's like there's a lot of amenities. And I was excited. I was like, this is cool. And but my one critique was, hey, there's a big puddle of standing water in the middle of this apartment complex. Are there alligators and mosquitoes? Because those are like the 2 things that standing water.
The most dangerous things in Florida, other than old white ladies.
Yeah, and they were like, no, we check it for alligators and they do like mosquito prevention. I'm like, okay, fine,
cool,
whatever. But
yeah.
So that was fun.
So you're excited?
I'm excited about the apartment.
When do you move it? Do you like if it all goes through? Obviously, they have to call me to check up on your reports.
Yeah, my quarterly reports and all that.
Your quarterly reports. But once they call me and I give them the A-OK, when could this happen? Are we talking September 1?
No, it's this month.
This month?
Oh yeah.
We're talking Aug 15, maybe Aug 22.
We might be out August 15th. Yeah.
Let's freaking go. Do they have internet at the apartment complex?
Oh, I'd have to set that up.
You should set that up.
I might be recording. So what I might do is I might upgrade my co-working space to 24-hour access. And when we do our evening pod, record from a
Is it far?
Center.
Is it a far drive?
Not from the apartment. It's closer to this apartment than it is to my house. But
nice. And then
there's also free beer in the co-working space. So after late night drinky, little drink with Ethan. And then
I don't have free beer anywhere.
I'm gonna be like, honey, I'm sorry, I have to stay at Groundswell because I am hammered, as they say. But
everyone's gonna know where you work
now. There's a bed and a shower there.
Really?
Well, there's a shower. I don't know if there's a bed. I think people just sleep in their offices sometimes.
I mean, anything can be a bed.
Oh, believe me, that was the story I was gonna tell. Do you want me to tell that story?
Well, I was gonna ask, is the apartment gonna be bigger than your last apartment?
Square footage wise, yes, but like the rooms that we used the most, namely the apartment is going to be bigger, but
sure.
Our last
will there be more rooms?
Yeah, there's more rooms.
Okay,
and so the living room and our bedroom are going to be smaller.
Sure, but more rooms is still good, even if it is
definitely.
A little bit smaller.
There's in-unit laundry.
Yay!
Which is huge.
Yay! Yay!
Big.
I'm very excited for you.
Me too.
Congratulations. If they take this away from you, I'm not above getting some very loyal and faithful listeners of this podcast together to firebomb that apartment. Well, obviously when no one's home.
No one's home.
Yeah.
No one's home. Well, there's other options. That's the thing. And a lot of the apartments around are requiring like 2.5 times rent instead of 4 times rent because rent is so high now that 4 times rent would be like they saw my commission statement for Decided Excellence, and my commission statement includes like everything. It includes like a really big income and expense for like publishing the magazine because I'm self-employed. So like he's like, here's all the money. Okay, now you have to give back several thousand of that. And she was like, sure. Do you make all this money? And I was like, no, ma'am. If I made all that money, I would simply buy a house.
I would simply not be talking to you.
You would
ever.
not be talking to me, and I would not show you my It was like it's very expensive to publish a magazine. But anyway, so it's I'm very excited for that. It's gonna be nice.
Happy for you.
Leo is gonna love it.
Oh yeah.
Because right now it's my parents' house is not completely Leo proof, and so he can't. He like sticks his hand in the dog food, and Max
just scoundrel stuff, just like being a little scamp, getting into it.
Dude, he's so cute. He's gotten cuter. Yeah, he like what's a good Leo story? I mean, he woke up screaming the other night, and Phoebe went in and he went dada 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 dada, and then he touched mom and he goes ma, and then laid down.
Oh, wow.
And then
at least he was comfortable with mom. Fell right asleep.
That night I came home, and he started screaming, and he was screaming like bloody murder. It was like crazy, and Phoebe was frustrated. And she had to go pee. Like, I'm not human. And so I went in, and I was like, "Do you want me to take care of it?" She said, "Yeah." And then he immediately calmed down, like laid his head on my shoulder, which he doesn't do unless he's tired. And then he like fell asleep in the child pose on my chest and like snuggled up. And then every time I got up, he'd be like, and he'd like throw himself on top of me to keep me in the bed. So I slept in Leo's bed last night.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Oh yeah, it's much more comfortable than the airport floor. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
You had to sleep on the airport floor.
I did. Did you sleep in the Charlotte airport too?
No, I got a hotel like a civilized person. But
that's funny because you're part of the reason why I decided to sleep there instead of find a hotel room.
What do you mean?
So I thought you slept at the Charlotte airport when we were on our way back from the Holy Land. And so I was like, if Ethan can sleep at the Charlotte airport, so can I.
No, we had been traveling for 24 hours and I was having a bad time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sleeping in a bed. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I miss my family. I miss my son.
Yeah.
This is awful. My wife is sad that I'm not home. My son is sad that I'm not home. I'm going to sleep in a bed.
Sure.
That was my whole thought process. So no, I did not sleep in the Charlotte airport. Although there were it was a large airport. So you have lots of room, many concourses.
Yes.
And terminals to sleep in.
However,
You
did not consider how crowded the Charlotte airport was going to be because everybody's flights got canceled. And so there were a ton of overnights.
Dude, what is going on, man? Do you think it'll ever Is it one of those things that just like COVID screwed it and it's just never going to go back to normal? Like,
no, this was a weather thing, but I think the way that they handled it was
there's only so many weather like the flights were not canceled this much 5 years ago.
You think?
You know? No.
Huh.
I've seen a ton of videos of pilots speaking to their planes, being like, "Hey guys, the last like couple months have been the hardest that they've ever been for us in the airline industry. So I appreciate your patience." Like, they're acknowledging that we're in a super unique time, and it's not just weather; it's like a ton of other stuff that's causing it. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Yeah. Wait. Maybe. Hold on.
So there's like a lot of people that quit because of the vaccine thing, and then there were like a lot of people that were laid off because of the COVID thing,
and they lost a lot of money. And it would be, that's funny, because if
now it's all just kind of catching up.
If they cancel because of a weather thing, they don't owe you any money.
No.
And then you, because you just want to get to where you want to go, are going to be like, I'll just drive.
Right.
And so they keep your money, and they don't
buy
have
another
to fly
flight.
the plane.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's smart. You know what? Conspiracy theory. I'm into it. Because we landed because we were super late flying out of Melbourne. We landed and I had 30 minutes to get to my flight before it left. Not boarded, just left.
Yeah.
And I made it before the flight left.
Nice.
But they were like, "Door's closed, sorry." And I was like,
worst.
"Yeah, but you could open the door."
Right.
I was like,
I see it right here.
Like, I was like, "Is the plane door closed?" And she's like, "No, but the boarding door is closed." I'm like, "That's fine. I know this for a fact. If the flight door is not closed, you can open the boarding door and let me on." And then 12 people came. They're like, we just landed. Our connection was late. Like, can you let us on? And they were like, "No, we just closed the plane." I was like, "Why did you do that? There's 12 seats open and you knew they were all coming." And the guy was being all like standoffish. And I was like, I didn't have a seat number, and so I was pretty sure I was on a standby list. Like, I wasn't getting on.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want you to tell me, like, I want you to look him in the eye and tell me that you knew that these people were on a plane on their way here, and you decided, you know what, we're not going to wait for him. And he's like, "No."
You're being a Karen.
No, I wanted him to, like, I was like, "Who made that decision?" And he was like, "Oh, like, they did." And I was like, "Okay, fine. Whatever." He's like, "I called them and asked, and they were like, we're gonna send the plane off without them." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And I was like, he was like, "You have to go talk to customer service." And I said, the customer service line is 30 people. Like, it's 100 people long. It's not 30. It was like
300 people.
300 people.
600 people.
I was like, and also you talk about this. You go to the customer service line and they say you have to go online or you have to call the number. You know, like, they can't help you. And so he was like, anything. I was like, you can do the vouchers here. Like, you can do them at the gate. So you're going to do the vouchers here right now. I just said that. I was being
nice.
Yeah. But I was like, you're just going to do the vouchers now. And he was like, "Oh, it's a weather delay. We don't need to do the vouchers." And I was like, well, I just pulled up my phone and I booked my next flight and I left because I was like, I'm out.
I'm sorry, man. That sucks. I feel bad for anybody who has to travel. I have to do maybe 1 or 2 more flights this year, which I'm not excited about, but they're shorter trips than the other ones that I've gone on. So
sure.
shouldn't be that bad.
I was less mad about myself, and I was more mad about, like, everybody else, because I was like, it was 12 to 15 people showed up all at once, and I just didn't understand why they would not hold the plane.
They don't care about us.
Yeah, it was just strange.
You know what I mean? Like, I think people are under this illusion that any institution exists in a state of, like, selflessness. You know, like,
yeah, or
nobody,
yeah,
like, there may be diamonds in the rough where there's like a nice Dolly Parton-esque figure that's like, "Don't worry, honey, I'll get this door open for you. Don't you worry about a thing. We'll get you on this plane." But those are like 1 in a million people, because nobody else has paid. Everyone else has paid $40,000 a year, and, like, why would they care? You know,
yeah,
like,
that's fair.
Like, seriously, why would they? They're not taught to care. They're not incentivized to care. And it's like, it's a tragedy of the commons thing, you know, where if, like, everybody is kind of underpaid and overworked, then no one's going to step up and take care of the people.
No one has ownership. You know? It's funny because the tragedy of the commons is supposed to be a socialism problem, but this is a capitalism problem.
When capitalism basically becomes there's so many super wealthy companies that can afford to pay people just enough to live, Basically, the companies become the state, and so it's like the same. You have to deal with the same psychological problem.
Yeah.
People say I'm a goofball, but I don't know what the frick I'm talking about. You know what I
mean? Functionally. Oh, sorry, I said that earlier. Are you really harboring that?
No. I was just referencing something earlier to make a connection with you, who I'm having a conversation with.
But it's you're like functionally. What's the difference between like Verizon installation fees or like service fees and taxes? What's the difference?
Zip zero zilch.
You just can't do anything about it. I had already kind of like made my peace with I'm sleeping at the Charlotte airport on my flight over.
Nice.
And so I was like, because I was fine with it because I knew there was a flight at 7 that would get me to my talk on time. And I did. I got to my talk 45 minutes early. And very tired. But I went immediately to the Charlotte Airport Chapel. Did I tell you this?
No.
I went immediately to the Charlotte Airport Chapel because I knew that most people would be uncomfortable in a chapel, and so they probably weren't going to be in the chapel.
Nice.
And it was me and a lady who took out her laptop and watched some kind of like prayer service with headphones on. Darn.
Nice.
And was like bitterly weeping.
Oh.
And like having like an experience in this chapel. And
dude,
I was like,
Protestants love their YouTube worship services.
Like,
they get into them.
Well, it was like 11 p.m. and I was kind of ready to turn in. I was like,
make her turn up like, hey, I'm gonna go to bed. Do you need anything? Can I get you some water?
I felt wrong, like going to sleep while she was using the chapel to pray, right? Because it's a sign that says, "Please don't sleep in the chapel."
Oh, Patrick.
Because they don't want people going in there and sleeping. They don't want it to become like a regular sleep spot. But it's like overnight. Right. What are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah.
And it was a bunch of people were in there and they all left, and then it was just me and this lady. And so I got like one of the comfy chairs. And comfy for an airport chair. It's still like a conference center chair, And I was ready to like kind of, so that the chair was like a cushion chair that had little flaps that covered the bottom of the chair, so you couldn't see underneath the chair. And so I like
flaps.
My plan was stick my little head under the chair because the chapel lights didn't turn off.
Oh,
so
you put your head under a chair. Did you die? Did you suffocate?
No, there was air.
There was air?
Yeah.
The flaps didn't prevent you from breathing?
Huh.
Well,
because my body was like holding one of the flaps open. It was just covering my eyes.
I guess your head has to get in there somehow.
Yeah.
And it is connected to your torso and wall.
Yes. But I had a little cave and I used it's funny, I didn't bring my sweater and I didn't bring my travel pillow, which was dumb. And so I used like my packing cube as a pillow and one of my shirts as a blanket. And I read online, I Googled how to sleep at the Charlotte airport, and the blog that was like sleepinginairports.com. There's a hand, a glove for every hand, I guess.
A hand for every foot.
And it said, the Charlotte airport gets extremely cold at night. I was like, it doesn't feel very cold. I woke up the next morning chattering. Like my teeth were just, it's a chilly
place.
I walked out into the terminal, and it was like people were looking at me like, what did this person do? And I was like, I slept 2 hours.
Who is this frost troll that's emerging from the chapel?
I was like, I probably look like a maniac right now. And I went to my gate, and there was a little breakfast place that had nobody.
Did you get Cinnabon?
No. It was like a market, like a breakfast market or whatever. And they had a little cage with a bunch of breakfast sandwiches that was a warmer. It was a big wall-sized warmer.
So you stood in it.
And I stood right in front of it, and I was like, yes. I'm thawing out.
Wow.
But it wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, once you fall asleep, the night goes pretty quick. You just hurt the next morning. It's like, what can you do? Take an ibuprofen, move on.
Yeah. I'm sorry that all those things happened to you.
I was kind of, if I'm being honest, it was like a nice, like spiritually nice thing. Like I had my rosary, and whenever I woke up and had trouble sleeping, I'd pray my rosary and go back to sleep. And, it was I was a real big crank when my flight was delayed overnight going home because I wanted to see my wife. I was like, I'm mad and I'm pissed and blah, blah, blah. But going to the talk made it easier, I think, because I was able to like contextualize the delay in the context of I'm going to do this ministry thing, And so it was easier for me to not be selfish because I was like, I'm going to get there when I get there. If I miss the talk, I miss the talk. It is funny, like that was my attitude going there, but like coming back, it was like, no, this isn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to see Phoebe tonight, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't know, since then I've kind of, you know, if it's happening, it's God's will. So like,
whoa,
it's not supposed to be another way, because if it was, then it would be, you know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yes, that was kind of my takeaway from that whole experience.
I think those are good takeaways. Someone asked me if I had any takeaways from when we went to the Holy Land, and I was like, not really.
I had some takeaways. Come on.
I didn't go trying to get something out of it. You know, like I went to go, and then I came back, and now I'm here.
I kind of get that. Yeah, I was like expecting it to be a life-changing experience. That was kind of like my expectation. What?
Mm-hmm. I'm just like, oh, it was fine. You know, I wouldn't say that my life was changed. I feel differently about the Holy Land now. Now I know what Palestine is.
Yeah, now you know what the West Bank is.
That is a life-changing experience. I did see a video of some Israeli people spitting on some Catholic nuns. So we missed out on that. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, that looks like a street that I walked in Jerusalem.
I'm much more conscious of anti-Christian prejudice among the children of Israel now.
Yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
Much more.
How many different ways can we say Jews without saying Jews?
The people of the promise.
Yeah. It's actually been like a really sadly, like a recorded thing that like Jewish persecution of Christians has gone up like drastically.
Yeah.
In Jerusalem specifically. Like, do you hear about this monastery that got burnt down?
Yes.
Or that like that was attacked like in not very far away from where we were while we were there?
I was gonna
like.
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah.
Jewish radicals attacked this. They had to put up like an iron gate because people kept trying to like get in and take down this monastery. I saw this video of these guys that spit on these nuns. There's a priest that was like preaching the gospel and people were spitting on him. It's just like, man.
Someone commented a mean thing on our Instagram.
Oh, really?
Oh,
That's
yeah, a Jewish person commented, we killed your God.
Holy crap.
I know.
Goodness gracious.
I
mean, you're yes, but like
I was like, hey, how come you can say it but we can't?
I know. It's one of those. It's one of those things.
Says it and he gets his cause of canonization revoked, and you say it, and it's like fine, you know.
Yeah.
There's also that super popular rabbi on Twitter who gets really anti-Christian. It's crazy.
There's rabbis on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. It's wild. But I don't get it. They're like super pro like sexual immorality, and I'm like, do you not? It's like.
Did you see the video this video made the rounds? So I'm super deep in the right wing. Anonymous frog Twitter, and it's where I get all of my news actually.
Good.
And
good.
There was this video that was going around from Matt Fradd's interview with Dennis Prager in like this whole other side of YouTube, or not of YouTube, of Twitter. And I was like, this is so funny to see Matt Fradd pop up on these people's profiles, because I like have met Matt and I know Matt, and these guys are like they all live in Europe and they're all bodybuilders and they're all like racist. And so it was this thing where Dennis Prager, who runs PragerU, he's a Jewish man, but they fundamentally disagreed on evil, because for Matt, if you think something, then and you're like you point your will towards it with your thoughts, then that can be sinful.
Yes.
And Dennis Prager was like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like as long as you're not doing anything, it's not wrong. And so Matt's like, so if I'm watching animated child pornography and lusting towards it, that's not evil. And Dennis Prager was like, no, it's not. And Matt's like, that is despicable. that is crazy. Yeah.
But so that's what our guide was talking about. He was like, Christians do not understand how like Catholics get called legalistic. It's like the buttons thing. I keep getting back to the elevator thing. It's like those kids would not touch a button.
Right. When we were in Jerusalem, we were there on Shabbat, and there was an elevator that would automatically go to each floor, but none of the buttons worked because you can't press a button because that's work. on Shabbat.
But your phone was fine, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's just like very.
But it's like
interesting.
Hani was saying, he was like these. It's easier. I would even say it's kind of encouraged in these faiths that, the thing that makes you a Jew is I do these things.
Right. I follow these laws.
It makes sense that when a Christian and a Jew are talking, and a Christian says, "Hey, can you sin in your thoughts?" and the Jew says, "No." Like, that's why Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. He had to say it because they didn't believe it. Right. And it's so obvious to us even like in a non-Christian, like a post-Christian society, like even a secular person would say that child pornography is wrong, even if it's animated and not really child pornography, because it's like, oh, it's the intention. Even a non-Catholic, even a non-Christian secular American would say that because we're so influenced by Jesus.
Right.
You just can't.
It's why people say when like a guy takes a picture of a young girl out at the beach or something, they're immediately like, check his hard drive, because it's not like, because they know that there's something else going on. Like taking a picture of a young person in and of itself, maybe not wrong, right? But like we recognize that there's an intention behind that action. That's so interesting. Now people, they don't even call it like lust anymore. People call it emotional affairs because they don't want to like, oh, I'm in this emotional affair with this other person.
Oh yeah, it's emotional unchastity.
Yeah, but even then they recognize it as an affair, even if they're not acting per se, which is fascinating. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Jews.
We're not here to talk about Dennis Prager.
I want to talk about another worldwide gathering that caused a lot of controversy.
Ah, yes.
I want to talk about the World Youth Day.
Ryan Con.
The Ryan Con?
The convention
of all the Ryans that got together? Oh, my contact is going to...
Is your brother Ryan going to go to the Ryan Con in Las Vegas?
Did it already happen? Is there still time?
I think so. You should send him over.
Let's see here. Ryan Con. Ryan, put up on the screen right now if you're going. I can't find anything for Ryan Con.
I don't know if it's Ryan Con. It's like a Ryan gathering.
I found Ryan Higa on Twitter.
What's he doing? What's he up to?
He said he lives in Las Vegas and he has 1.7 million followers. He looks like he just retweets other people's stuff.
Nice.
Nice. Anyway, I want to talk about World Youth Day. So there's some things flying.
A kerfuffle.
Yeah, it happened last weekend. So this is a little old news by the time this comes out, but I still think it's important to talk about. Because you made a story on our Instagram and people were like, "What is that? Why'd you post this?"
I made a story on our Instagram
when you saw the bins at Catholic Family Land.
Oh yeah, I saw bins at Catholic Family Land. I was like, "That's a weird place to put a tabernacle."
Right. So if you don't understand this, so there's a lot of things. There are a lot of things that have been coming out about World Youth Day. First and foremost, there's always like a lot of trepidation leading up to it because there's always reports every year. I think even back to the first World Youth Days of like consecrated hosts being hauled off in like trash bags because they had no better way to like transport them. Or people finding hosts in the ground, after mass is over, and they're like pictures of the extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion who are all just like old 70-year-old people.
Why do they have extraordinary ministers at World Youth Day? There's like every priest.
Every priest on the planet is there. I know, Patrick. It doesn't make any sense. So it's just there's lots of things that are happening. Like people are very, I think, rightfully concerned about liturgical abuses and lack of reverence for the sacrament at World Youth Day.
Yes.
So the straw that broke my camel is I don't know what the phrase is. But the thing that really frustrated me was that someone posted some pictures of these like storage, those like, they're not like clear bins, but like kind of the sturdier ones with like the teeth, that kind of interlock over the top. You know what I'm talking about. So there were like 3 of those stacked on top of each other, and that had the hosts in them after mass. Like this is the Eucharist. Jesus is in these stacked rubber containers, and everyone was like, and there was another picture of like people like kneeling in front of them, and it just looked so bizarre. Like, just honestly, it was just a really weird photo of young people kneeling in front of these storage bins.
Did you know,
and then,
they were praying? They were praying a rosary for reparations against.
Oh, really?
The abuse. The girl commented.
Huge.
She was like,
I love that, actually.
Yeah, she's like, this is me and my friend. We're praying for reparations against the
Based. I love it.
Huge.
So this all was happening, and
get ready. We're probably gonna end up talking about it tomorrow with Amber.
Oh yeah, I am prepared. Oh, Amber, that'll be an interesting. We're gonna be on the Religious Hippie podcast tomorrow. I don't know when it's gonna come out.
Me either. I'm very excited though.
I am excited too. I'm worried that she's not gonna be prepared for us.
That's true. She did send us questions so that we could be prepared for the show, but I don't think she's prepared for us. I don't think. You know what? No, she's definitely not prepared, because I went on and I was very much like my Catholic speaker self, very middle of the road.
You were locked in.
Did you hear my episode? Of course you did.
No, I would never listen.
You never listen. I was very like,
to Catholic
she was like,
podcasts.
Tell me about why the trads are right, and I was like, well, we got. Very like amenable, very agreeable, but also not too. I didn't go full tilt like I wanted to.
I might go full tilt, and we could have a conversation.
Ethan's gonna be like, yeah, I do think the moon landing was Masonic, and I do think that the bomb was dropped in the two most Catholic cities in Japan for a reason. I do.
You're leaping ahead in the topic list.
I know.
I'm just kidding. Speaking of that, did you see Steve Skojec's? I do think
Oppenheimer was a Freemason.
Did you see Steve Skojec's tweet today?
No.
Holy.
Hold on, I want to live react to it.
No, it's really long. It's really long. It's not worth it. Don't do it right now. Don't do it right now. Okay. But I can give you a summary of it. But basically, he was responding to this guy, and he just did like the most. I quote tweeted it on my profile if you want to read it after this.
Okay.
But I said Steve really served here, and no one responded. But because I think he did. But he did like a multiple paragraph, like the most articulate, elegant, and just like brutal takedown of post-conciliar Catholicism in America that I've ever seen. And he like ends it like he's mad at this guy specifically, and he's like, you are contemptible, you are needling, you are this, you are an occasion of sin, and I'm going to block you. Like he just lights this guy up, and it's like this huge long, like talking about all the felt band. He just goes through the music. He calls it off Broadway music. Like he just lays into it. And it's first of all, it's really funny, but second of all, I'm like, hey man, I feel all of this. Don't read it right now. You're going to get distracted.
I am going to read it right now.
No, Patrick.
Ethan Stevie Twitter. I just want to see your tweet that says you really served.
Yeah. Do we not like Steve Skojec anymore? Did you ever get in a tiff with him?
Oh yeah, multiple times. And Steve the Missionary commented, and he was like, do not invite him on the podcast. He is there for blood, and you're not going to live after this. Oh, it was Mike Lewis? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Is that who it was?
Yeah.
Deserved.
Yeah. I don't know who Mike Lewis is, but I'm on Steve Skojec's side. Anyway, not important. I want to talk about the Tupperware.
Bubblegum chewing religion of suburban good cheer. Obnoxiously entitled laity. Off Broadway show tunes. Oh my god.
This is the first sentence.
Homilies that are straight from chicken soup for the low IQ.
Yeah.
Not very ambiguously gay. Pass. Okay. All right.
Yeah, right. I know we have to. Yeah, he goes after it.
The thing, this is like, I do want to talk about this because like,
yeah,
the tradening is just happening.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, everybody, like, I very ardently like defense of, and I think it's true. It's like the Novus Ordo is here to stay, and the reality is like, you're right. It was a jarring transition, not a transition. It was a jarring like rupture.
Yeah.
But now we have generations of Catholics who grew up with that rupture, so we can't just rupture it back, right? So like we have this problem, right? We don't have to solve it. But it's like very clearly there's an issue here with like just all of what Steve was saying. It's just like it seems like the Novus Ordo was
suburban,
Yeah, the Novus Ordo seems to be like grown in a lab for like how to make suburban, middle class Catholics real comfy.
Yeah.
And not challenged.
It is the liturgy.
Or the way that we do it. You know?
Right. And the liturgy is key. We can't neglect the liturgy. But he says something at some point like Catholicism is designed. Catholicism used to create martyrs. Now it creates lapsed Catholics and atheists. Was one of the things that he says.
Which he is.
Yeah,
he's both. I think he's both of those.
I think he's agnostic now, which is
pray for Steve Skojic.
Yeah, we should invite him on the show and talk to him. I think that could be a fruitful conversation.
I've DM'd him since. I'm like, hey, I know we've had our problems. I don't even know if you remember those problems, but like, I hope you're doing well, man.
Hey, man. All right, man. Hope you're doing okay.
I told him, I was like, hatchet buried. Like, whatever you're going through is obviously more important than whatever little beef we had. But like, he also regrets what he did at 1 Peter 5, which is what I didn't like him for. So we're good. Yeah.
So, but I think, and I do think this dovetails a bit with the World Youth Day conversation, because I think more and more people are noticing that there is either a malicious group of people trying desperately to undermine the tradition and the truth of Orthodox Catholicism, or there's a bunch of really, really incompetent people in charge, like to the point where it's so low probability that there's that many incompetent people that it almost has to be the former, right?
There's that rule of like always assume incompetence before malice. And I think I tried. I'm gonna hold on a little longer. I think gonna keep.
I'm done trying for the most part, because like, did you see what's the quote? I'm gonna read this real quick. Cardinal in charge of World Youth Day. Let's see here. The auxiliary bishop of Lisbon and new president of the World Youth Day Lisbon 2023 Foundation, who Pope Francis recently named a cardinal. He was quoted as saying, "We don't want to convert the young people to Christ or to the church."
Oh yeah, Bishop Bobby B responded to that.
Yeah, or anything like that at all. We want it to be normal for a young Catholic Christian to say and bear witness to who he is, or for a young Muslim Jew or of another religion to also have no problem saying who he is and bearing witness to it, and for a young person who has no religion to feel welcome and perhaps not feel strange for thinking in a different way. This is strange to me, because it's like, I get it. Like, it's a theology of affirmation. Like, you want people to feel like their experience is valid, which it is. But if someone is not Catholic, they're wrong, and it's like that. Like, if you can't take that next step, then it's like, why are you a cardinal of the Catholic Church? You know what I mean? Why not just be whatever you feel?
If you feel this way about Catholicism, like, well, in the end, like, it's just matters that you're a good person, and it's like, it doesn't really matter because like we all believe in the same God and we're going to the same place. Like, all right, then why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are we here?
What is the point?
Because the world believes that it doesn't matter what religion you are, and everyone's fine, and you can do whatever you want. And so when Catholics start saying you can do whatever you want and it doesn't matter what you believe, then the world says, congratulations, you're here late to the party. Get out.
Yeah.
Like, finally, we've defeated.
It's the stupid, dumb, idiotic, stupid quote from Rick and Morty. It's like, it's college with extra steps or whatever, right? It's like, basically you just invented like secular humanism with extra steps.
With extra steps, yeah.
Yes. It's like, why should I go to mass and get all these sacraments and listen to all these terrible homilies and this terrible music just to have the same attitude about life and the world as my neighbor does, who doesn't go to church and who doesn't raise his kids this way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Who is just as happy as me, at least on the surface, right? We watch the same football games and we work the same kind of jobs. We drive the same kind of cars. Why do I need to do all of this when this is an objectively more miserable experience? Because it is. And like, if you divorce it from like the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus, if you divorce it from the tradition of the church, if you divorce it from evangelization and mission and like all of those things, and you're just left with this weird UN branch, where everybody wears costumes. And like, and so I think that's why, like, when I saw the tabernacle thing, I was just like, man, did nobody even think, like, it's World Youth Day, like, okay, you are telling me that you can't have someone construct or purchase a large tabernacle
that's bolted to the ground so no one takes it.
That's bolted to the ground, or collect a bunch of tabernacles and have them, guarded throughout the night. Like, there is a way to do this. You guys just didn't try,
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need to have a mass for 1.6 million people, all the same mass where everyone has communion distributed to them? Why can't, with all the thousands of priests that were there, just have thousands of little masses that people can go to? Like, is that any harder to set up than the one big mass?
Father Alec, I was like, yeah, people would probably feel like they didn't go to mass, though, because the catechesis is so bad that they think they have to receive it every mass. And Father Alec goes, yeah, but wasn't catechesis part of World Youth Day? And I was like, oh, shoot, yeah, good point.
Right. It's just like such a weird...
know, it's like the secular humanism thing. There's like, Von Balthasar wrote this play about Karl Rahner at the Vatican Council. I've talked about this before, but it's like Karl Rahner, a theologian representing Karl Rahner, the Jesuit, talking to a secular humanist. And he's like, no, don't worry. Like, the Catholic Church has always preached freedom of religion and liberty and equality and fraternity. And the secular humanist responds like, well, it's too bad the French Revolution had to do all your work for you. But what do we need you for?
Yeah.
If you actually agreed with us the whole time, then what's the point? And it's like someone said this thing about like evil preaches tolerance until it's accepted, and then it becomes dogma. And like that, we're just and we got tricked by the religious freedom doctrine.
Yeah.
In America, it happened recently because for a long time in America, religious freedom meant everyone except for Catholics, like for a very long time. And for a long time in America, religious freedom meant whatever Protestantism you want. And so like we got tricked recently, like I think after Kennedy, where it was like, oh, don't worry, like you can be Catholic as long as you keep it to yourself, and it's you can we're actually better off under freedom of religion. And we kind of got lulled into it, and now we're gonna face the consequences of those actions, I guess. It's like, but it's good because the people who made those decisions are long dead, and they don't have to see it.
Right. Well,
good for them.
I know it's hard to see what's going on here when you're facing eternal lakes of fire. So,
yeah,
bummer. I saw a video from Panama where Satanists broke into a Catholic church and took out the consecrated host and drew out the words "Hail Satan" with like the hosts on the ground, and like flipped statues over and like desecrated different things. It's just like, man, if we don't think that that's going to happen here soon, it's like, but is anyone going to care when it does happen? Are the people who care going to be seen as like rigid traditionalists who?
I mean, there were black masses, and like what's going to happen is, like there's going to be a black mass, and then the National Catholic Reporter is going to be like, let's not be too hasty to condemn the Satanists here.
Right. Yeah.
Don't forget, the Catholic Church has a long history of covering up child abuse.
Right. There's going to be an America Magazine article that's like, you might be tempted to disavow the black mass, but maybe it's time for you to listen. It's like, I don't think it's time for me to listen to them.
I haven't submitted an article in a while for good reason.
I know. So, yeah. And I think my last thing that I want to say on this, and then we can wrap up the episode, is I have a deep frustration, and I don't know how to articulate it in a way that's charitable, with priests and people who have this like this image of people like me, right? Or people who are maybe lean more traditional, who are not afraid to say these things. Like I don't feel guilty saying that Pope Francis gutted the John Paul II Institute in Rome. I don't feel guilty saying he's put cardinals in positions of power, cardinals who seem to profess sexual ethics contrary to the Catholic Church, sacramental theology contrary to what the church teaches. Like, you can just look all this up, And then it's like, hey, these are all bad decisions, and either he's being malicious or he's incompetent. And that's really the situation. It's like, and you can't say that because people will say, well, we need to pray for the Holy Father, and we can't be, we shouldn't, we can't be these angry, like, why are you so outraged and angry all the time? Someone said that to me in response to my tweets. Like, why are you outraged? I'm like, I'm not outraged. It's just weird that you're not,
it's just weird that
it's weird that you keep finding reasons to excuse this brand of Catholicism because one or two people convert every year. It's like, yes, but thousands and thousands and thousands of people are leaving. And so, yes, good can happen at World Youth Day. No doubt about it. Good can happen through the church today. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Christ is always working.
Conversion was at a World Youth Day.
Right. Huge. Right. Jesus is always working, bringing people to him no matter the circumstances. But why would we do it in a way that we know is less good than other ways?
I think Father Harrison's conversion was at World Youth Day too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes sense. So anyway, I just wish that people would stop getting so defensive about this style of global Catholicism, and instead maybe have a bit more clear eyes, even if it means that they align with people that they've previously disavowed. Because it's scary to identify with the trads, but sometimes the trads are right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
can't believe
what?
I can't believe I would ever die fighting with Steve Skojic.
Yeah.
How about with a friend or something? I don't know.
Can I be?
I never saw the movie.
If I'm Gimli and you're Legolas, whom's Frodo? KB Rubalcaba.
Katie Rubalcaba is Frodo. She has to throw.
And then who is Aragorn?
Who is Aragorn? Obviously John Blevins. Look at that man. That's a whole man right there.
Who is Gandalf? Obviously Luke Carey.
Luke Carey. I was gonna say.
I was just thinking of the oldest person that I know.
No. The Fellowship of the Ring. All right. You are Gimli, and I am Legolas.
Yeah.
And Luke and Gomer.
Or like Lego ass.
Yep. Yeah. And Luke and Gomer are Frodo and Sam. And they're real short, and it's really funny. And Father Harrison and Father Anthony are Merry and Pippin.
Oh, goodness. I forgot about Merry and Pippin.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Saruman could be I don't know, Dr. Taylor Marshall. Ooh, let's get him.
Dr. Taylor Marshall.
Even though he is wrong about the moon landing, but not for the reason that you think. The moon landing wasn't fake. The moon landing was real, but they did film it on a soundstage on the moon. That's what people don't understand.
That's what people don't get. They shipped a soundstage up there.
Yeah.
Father Anthony was like, the moon landing wasn't staged, but it was a mortal sin.
Dude, unironically, you should read my tweet because I was doing some digging. I was doing some poking.
Oh yeah.
Turns out the guy that invented the rockets that the rocket technology that allowed us to go to the moon was an occultist and stated that he communicated directly with Satan and summoned him in his room, and was also a disciple of Aleister Crowley, who's one of the most infamous occultists of all time. And he joined this weird magic alchemic church where he would do inversions of the mass rituals and all of these things. And everyone's like, oh yeah, he probably just invented the rockets on his own. It's like, nah, dude, the demons told him how to make the rockets.
The C.S. Lewis's space trilogy is happening.
Yeah, 100%.
The demons are using space travel to get to Paralandra so they can corrupt the new man.
And this is Michael O'Brien. This is Michael O'Brien in Voyage to Alpha Centauri too. This is the whole thing.
Really?
They go to Alpha Centauri and they find the ruins of an ancient civilization, but it's actually all the people from Earth before the flood that all the evil people get taken away in a spaceship that's given to them by Satan. So anyway, it's a cool little story. But anyway, if you want to learn more, look up Jack Parsons on Wikipedia and just scroll down to the part where it talks about occult activities. And
don't do that. It's bad to indulge in curiosity when it comes to the occult. Don't worry about it.
I don't think it's curious. I'm not curious about the occult. I'm curious about the guy that invented the rockets that took us to the moon and about how he was an occultist. Do you see what I mean? A little bit different.
I see.
I only say this because I want people to question everything, and not because I think that they should be curious.
Sure. Well, if you think this episode is worth a cup of coffee, you can donate $10 a month on Patreon. That is about what it would cost to buy us a cup of coffee. And if you can't afford that, that's fine. Leave a review. It is just as helpful.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, do you have anything else for the people?
What was the conspiracy theory that you mentioned earlier that I said I believe now?
The airlines just use weather delays?
Yeah. Airlines delaying on purpose is now my 6th conspiracy theory that I fully and unironically believe.
Thank you all for listening. Please pray for us, and we will be praying for you. And we'll see you all next week.